Oh, well, that's Adams, I think, over in Washington. I believe.
Yeah?
No.
Okay, where are we?
I want to show you something.
Okay, where are we?
Well, this right here, this was where we used to call it Davis School. It was 1 acre laid out in the middle of this farm country so that kids that lived around in different areas could be about the same distance from school. Our ranch where I lived was 2.5 miles out over this way. You can see when you look out across here, you see the plowed field over here, and you see where the road can, I don't know whether you'll be able to see that in that picture now, but see where the road goes up over there and around and down? That's a continuation of this road. That was our part of our ranch where that plowed field is, not the other side. And if you look right down here, right down at the bottom of this, right where you see that field down there where the road goes down there, that's where our ranch started. I used to ride, there was a little barn, we had our horses here left out, tied them up during the day, and I'd ride down there and there was a gate there, and that was in our ranch. It extended all the way down through all that plowed field down there, and actually it went clear down over across, I think it was almost 5 miles from up here to the area across that 8 Mile Canyon. And where you can see the buildings, if you can see them up there on the ridge road, that was what they call the company ranch. And just down this side of there a little ways, where you can see that is where we used to come down. I would say that canyon, you can see a canyon right through there, right this side of the buildings. Yeah. It kind of goes up, splits up into the middle of that field. Yeah. That little draw up there is probably the closest from an old county road to get into where the ranch was. But this canyon right down here that you can kind of see right down, if you get down there, I used to go horseback down there to get home. But home was just almost directly towards the mountain over there, which you probably can't see in your picture.
Yeah, you can.
Can you?
Yeah.
There used to be a road, go up in, used to be a road right down the middle of that field over there that you can see, right all the way down that field to the ranch house. And that's where Dick, that was his name, wasn't it? Dick said that he was pretty sure he couldn't get down through there now.
Okay. Mommy, some mantises. Really?
Barbara McGilligan, that was in school with me in the 1st grade, lived right straight down this way, about 2.5 miles. She rode, so the 3 of us rode horseback.
Mom, bring mantises showers.
They don't use any electric fences, do they? Electric fences or just barbed wire, it looks like?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say fences. I don't know of any electric fences around the country over here, no. They just use barbed wire and you know, it's kind of amazing how small, it's just, hardly, I haven't seen any cattle around this whole area.
No, I haven't either, I've been looking.
You know, there's signs that they've been here, but
not for a while.
My dad used to have 100 head. We used to have 100 head cattle, and at one time we milked 20 or more cows. And then he kind of switched over to beef cattle. So I haven't seen any signs of live. After we came up Willow Creek down there, there was a couple of those places down there where there were quite a few head of cattle on the creek.
Pack dogs. We got 2 watchdogs out here with us.
Yeah, we're well protected, aren't we?
Yep, they chased away the big dogs earlier, the big cattle dogs. It's true. It's a true story.
When you were rabbit hunting and you saw that rattlesnake, what did you do?
We had some friends with me, and we'd heard this about how these black snakes that were around that were not rattlesnakes, how they would fight with rattlesnakes. And we found a snake that was not a rattlesnake and picked him up and carried him and said, well, let's go find a rattlesnake and see if they'll fight. So we carried him down the trail for quite a little ways, and by golly, right there between where he was and I was, there was a rattlesnake right in the trail.
I need a bow! I need a bow!
And we put this snake down, see if they'd fight. They didn't fight a bit. One of them would just crawl right over the other one, not paying attention to each other. So then we killed. We'd always try to kill rattlesnakes if we could. We didn't want to leave them around. If we found one, we'd try to kill it with rocks or whatever we had.
Any close calls?
No, not really. When a rattlesnake can strike about like 2/3 of his length. They coil, and then just the upper part of their body whips out. So you'd have to have an awful big snake to be able to strike even that far. One time when we were out in the wheat fields, I think it was Walt picked up a sack of wheat. The rattlesnakes lots of times would get under the sacks because there were mice, and mice would get in there to get the wheat. So the rattlesnakes would go in after the mice. He'd pick up a sack of wheat and put it on, a sack of wheat weighed about between 130 and 140 pounds. So you had to get right down to pick it up. And if it was a rattlesnake, I've picked up a sack of wheat and found a rattlesnake right between my feet down there and just put the sack of wheat right back down on top of him, and had no problem. But one time Walt walked around the combine, got off of it, and felt something hit his leg, and he looked down, and the rattlesnake has the fangs that kind of hook in like that, kind of hook over. And this rattlesnake struck at him and hit his overalls, and fangs hooked in the cloth. And he was hanging there. He was hanging there on his pants when he looked.
Oh, no. Wow.
That's pretty close call. Yeah, he hollered.
Wow.
One day when we were out hunting, I was out hunting. I found 3, and one day I saw 3 rattlesnakes, and that was most unusual. Most of the time you never saw one. You'd go for a month or 6 weeks or 2 months and never see one. So seeing 3 in one day was unusual.
Yeah. I've never seen one.
Haven't you? Have you seen rattlesnakes in
Boy, I think so.
Zoos or?
I think so. For sure I've seen the rattle.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mom, this thing has a real rat.
Does she?
Her dad shot it.
On their property?
I don't know.
They're out hunting maybe or something.
Didn't come back.
She didn't want to come be a country girl.
No. That summer, before I got married, I worked in Oregon City at West Lynn at Holly's Pulp and Paper Mill. And
wow.
I guess I did that because I was fairly close to Portland, and that's where Jan was. Jan was in nurses training at that time. So that's why I stayed down there to be closer to Portland.
Right. That would do it.
Yep.
Pop that little dog.
In 43, then the folks sold the ranch and moved to Hermiston. So this was no longer home.
Right.
Mighty, you sure are getting awful dirty there. What do you think you are, a little pig? That's not very good stuff for dogs, is it?
No. It looks like shavings, but it must just be dried up leaves.
Well, that's what I was looking at there a while ago. It's just
from
wheat the trees, stubble. I think, isn't it?
The trees and from the wheat.
Yeah.
Blown in, huh?
Weeds and blown in.